Hey, what's up, everybody? I know there's a lot of people excited about this one. Today, we're going to be talking about how to enroll clients into your programs, into your agency, whatever you're selling, even when you hear when you're hearing the objection, I don't have the money, or I need to think about it. So we're going to talk about how to handle those objections so that you really can just crush those objections moving forward in your business. Because if you're like me, I struggle with that. I hear that same objection all the time. So today we're going to figure out exactly how to get past that so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So we're talking to my man, Mike Lamothe. How do I even pronounce your name? I don't even know if I've asked you
the
that.
E silent. Lamothe.
Mike Lamothe. So Mike, I've known Mike for a while now, and he's helped me with my sales. He's great at sales. I'll just let you kind of give a little background on, how you got into training people sales and what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me, bud. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I kind of got into sales on a dare. I visited a friend from high school, and I'm from Rhode Island, and he was in California. So I visited him in California. He dared me. I couldn't get a job selling cars. Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting a gig, ended up staying out there, and then flash forward, I had many years in sales, and then I ended up getting into coaching people, just doing like basic stuff. Like I had friends just keep asking me for advice, and they say, "Hey, can I pay you for coaching?" And the next thing you know, I'm like, realize I'm like a life coach now. There's like, oh, anyway, but I started doing that, and then I decided to join a high ticket program, and I joined the program, which was fantastic. And first, I had a different kind of offer because I was working, full time, and I was doing this stuff, and I went down to part time when my wife had a kid because she had a really job she really loved, and I was like, at the time I was working for Apple. It was just like a cool gig, and it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, they're flexible. So I worked some nights and I worked weekends, and I was a stay-at-home dad. So I wanted to put a program together for, dads who like are crushing it in business, but they don't have the connection piece at home. And then in the program, like on week 5, like I was helping people, like they were struggling with sales and the high ticket sales. So I was just giving them advice and tips and stuff. And they've started getting sales, and the people in the program were like, dude, you need to do something on sales. And I'm like, I was trying to get out of it, right? Because I was just, trying to have this passion project. And then I started doing it, and I started helping people. Like I worked with one girl, Tara, and it was crazy. She had a 4% enrollment rate. She didn't have a call, like she didn't have a sale for like 2.5 months. And I worked with her for 10 days, and she went from like a 4% enrollment rate to a 22% enrollment rate. This is the first person I ever worked with.
It's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Makes a huge difference in your business.
Yeah. And then she was like, it's really funny, Mike, because suddenly we're not getting I don't have the money objection anymore. And it's funny because, yeah, you know what I mean? Because she's like, she shifted, but I listened to a lot of her calls. We did a lot of breakdowns and stuff, and help her revamp her system so it was more congruent to who she was, right? She was following someone else's script and trying to sound like somebody else, which is a mismatch, right? She's working with these certain women and a certain vibe, and she's trying to do these sales tactic things.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I'm currently in several programs that are, sales focused. And it just, a lot of the stuff that they teach just makes me cringe. It's like, I've got to have something that I'm comfortable with, or it's just not going to it's just going to come out weird, I think. So I like that. That's what I like about you. When we've talked, it's more, you got to find your own voice in the sales process to really make it work. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to interview you about, because I think you have kind of a different approach to a lot of people that are doing the sales training stuff out there. So yeah, thanks for being on the call. So I think it's going to help a lot of people, because I have a feeling a lot of people feel the same way that I do when it comes to sales. They read these scripts and stuff, and it just doesn't feel natural, and it makes it harder for them.
That's the biggest thing, dude. One of the biggest patterns that people struggle with is they don't feel right. So they're incongruent. They're not authentic, right? Because they hear these things and they're going, oh, I can't say that. It sounds horrible.
Oh, we lost him. Let me see if I can get Mike back real quick. Sorry, guys. I know y'all don't want to listen to me about sales. But while we're at it, while we're waiting on Mike to get back, Why don't you guys? There's a link in the Facebook
That was
post
weird.
where you can click on it. It's a StreamYard link, and we'll be able to see the people that are commenting. You can drop your sales questions for Mike, and we'll try to answer those at the end of the call. So we lost you there for a second, Mike. Thanks for joining us back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but yeah. What
All
were
right,
we
so
talking about?
you are,
The feeling inauthentic, right?
yeah,
So
yep.
that's why I'm not a big fan of lines. I know all the lines, dude. I know how to handle all the lines and all the stuff. But
Mhm.
here's the thing that I think most people miss. This is what I teach my clients. If you just make this one shift, like everyone always comes to me, they want to, how do I overcome this objection? How do I handle this objection? And I'm like, I don't even mess with objections. Like, don't overcome the objection. Uncover the limiting belief that's behind the objection.
Mhm.
Right? There's something there, right? There's something you miss, right? Sometimes people don't have the money, but people buy stuff all the time they don't have the money for. That's why most
Right.
people are in debt like crazy, right? The
Yeah, I
person
mean,
that
even
told you they
people,
don't have $5,000 for your program, 10,000. 2 weeks ago, they spent 5,000 on a big screen TV. You
well,
know what I mean?
and here's an important thing too. I mean, there's people like, you talk to all like, or listen to a lot of the big guys like Hermosi, the guy I think that started what is it, Lady Boss or whatever that big company is. They
Yeah.
all were presented with this program that they knew they had to buy, and they didn't have the money to do it. But by buying that program, it made them, push themselves and really work their asses off to get to where they are. And now they're super successful. So if I'm just like, I've learned this about myself is like when I have invested in programs, now I have invested in bad programs too. There's a lot of crappy programs out there. But when I invest in myself, that's when I've made, like in a good program, that's when I've made the biggest leaps in my business. And it's always, for the most part, generated a return on investment. So, I don't know why I even went off on that tangent, but
No, it's true that you have to, like, here's the thing. People come to me, right? I help people with their sales calls, right? So if they're coming to me, do you think their enrollment rate is really high? Everything's going great?
nope.
No. Like the client I worked with, she just signed up like 2 months ago. And so she signed up, was October. She signed up in October, right?
Mhm.
The last time she had a sale before October was January, an enrollment.
Mhm.
So what is that? 9 months or something,
Yeah.
like with no enrollments,
Right.
right? Do you think she had the money for the program?
No, because she
But
hadn't
she
made any
signed up,
sales.
right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I think one
If you feel good about your product and you feel confident you're going to, and that's another key is also feeling confident in the sales process that you've got a product that can help people and you're not just selling snake oil. You know what I'm saying?
well, for sure. I mean, hopefully everyone who's listening to this has got something
Right.
of value, or nothing's going to work, right? But the point I want to make is when people tell me they don't have the money, like I see people and other people, and they're like, "Oh, they don't have the money." I expect them not to have the money.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I think if they had the money, they probably wouldn't even need me,
Right.
right? So I don't. It doesn't phase me. Like, of course they don't have the money. You haven't enrolled anyone since January. How are you going to have the money?
Right.
So it's just a different energy. So I don't even like that. Doesn't even phase me. I'm like, oh, because then people will tell you like, this is the thing. I'm sure you hear. Well, I'm just going to get one sale and I'll come back to you,
Oh, absolutely. I
right?
posted that in the, I posted that in
People
the,
say that all the time, right? And it's like, I'm not big on lines, guys, right? Like seriously, but it's like, so okay, so let me just make sure I understand. You're gonna basically, you're gonna keep doing the things you've been doing that you've been telling me for the last 40 minutes or so that really haven't been working, but you're gonna keep doing them in hopes that they start to work, so that you can make the money, so you can figure out how to solve the problem that's not working.
right.
Is that right? And they're like, come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
And,
go ahead.
and that misalignment of what they've been telling you previously, and when you call them out on that in the call, like at the end, that's the worst. That's one of the feelings, the human feelings that what am I trying to say here? This is what I've learned in my other sales training stuff. But
People
basically,
have to be congruent to who they
yeah,
see themselves as.
right, exactly. So when they say
Yeah.
that when you bring that up to them and they've been talking about the problem the whole time, and then you're saying, you're bringing that out into the open, then they can kind of start questioning it themselves.
Another thing I want to talk about too that's really important about the objections at the end. It's like with a lot of coaches, consultants not so much, but mostly coaches, they go through the whole call and everything is just nice. There's no challenging, and then everything. This is what they say: everything goes great till they give the price, and then it falls apart. They say,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they either try to overcome. They either just most coaches, believe it or not, they don't want to come across pushy because that's like their worst thing. They hate that, so they don't even really try to even deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
They just say, okay, well, think about it. Whatever you need to do, talk to your spouse. Okay, find them, whatever you get back to me. And they just let go. They just fold. And then other people will try to overcome the objection, and they say, well, I need to think about it. And they'll go like, well, what do you need to think about? I mean, you have me right now, so if you have a question, just ask me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like this button heads. It doesn't work, right? So, and it feels out of right field or left field, whatever, because that you haven't challenged them the whole call. So what I look for is I look for patterns on the call, right? So here's the crazy thing. This is something that a lot of people don't realize is like, say you're a relationship coach, say you're a health coach, whatever kind of coach you are, you help people with the patterns of why they're struggling in their relationship, why they're struggling with their fitness or health or whatever it is going to be the same pattern disguised as an objection at the end because of the money, because of this. So the key,
Mm.
take those patterns and to be able to kind of um, expose the pattern and then cascade the pattern into all areas of their life, right? I'll give you an example. This is one I use a lot because it's a very common thing. People will have this procrastination pattern, right? And they'll talk to you, Ron, and they'll say, I've been wanting to do this, for a while. How long have you been wanting to do it for? Like 6 months. I just keep putting it off, right? Boom, procrastination pattern, right?
Mm.
So
Okay.
most people just let it go and they go into like, tell me about your marketing. Tell me about your, don't do that, right? So, okay, so how long have you been wanting to do this for? Oh, like 6, 8 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to unpack this procrastination pattern, right? Like, why do you think it's taking you so long? Like, where else is this pattern showing up? Like, is it showing up in your relationship? Is it showing up in your business? Whatever it is, right? So, a lot of the clients I work with are like B to like C. They're not like, it's not a B2B offer. A lot of them help with anxiety. They help with relationships, right? So when they unpack this procrastination pattern, they'll say something like, has this affected you at work? And they're like, yeah. How has it affected you at work? Well, I've been wanting to go for this promotion, but I keep putting it off. Right. And like, oh, okay, I got you. Like, would there be like would you get a raise with that promotion? Oh yeah. About how much do you think? Oh, probably $20,000. And how long have you been wanting to go for the promotion, but you just keep putting it off? Like 2 years. Right now we're going like, wow, okay. So the procrastination pattern is costing you $40,000 in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, gotcha. And we're talking to them about something else, right? So at the end of the call, right, if you don't deal with this procrastination pattern, what objection do you get at the end of the call?
Let me think about it. Uh,
Right? So we're handling, I want to think about objection through the whole call, all those little things like that.
so let me ask some questions here, just so I and everybody on the call is kind of getting this. So throughout the call, you're looking for, I guess, negative patterns or
Limiting beliefs,
limiting beliefs,
incongruencies.
and then you're just digging into those limiting beliefs when you hear them. And is there a good structure kind of to the questions you're asking when you're digging in, or is it just kind of like you just be curious and just
Well, the curiosity is going to get you a long way, right? Like for one, I want to know, like, I don't know, like basic things like, how long has it been going on for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another question you can ask is, why do you think you do that? Why do you think you keep putting it off and don't pull the trigger?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and then I want to take whatever the pattern is and bring it to every area of their life. What else have you been procrastinating, like personally? Well, I've been wanting to go back to the gym, but I haven't been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now we took this procrastination pattern. It's costing them 40 grand in income, which is, it's good to be able to tie it to income, because when you
Sure.
tell them
Right.
my program is $5,000, and that's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but
You just
it's not
told me
40 grand.
that if you had
Yeah.
done something 6 months ago, it
I
would
mean,
have.
think about it. Like,
Yeah.
if it's, let's say it was 2 grand a month, so it's like $24,000 for the year. It just takes you 3 months to get your money back if you
Mm-hmm.
can. But not only that, and what is the cost of procrastinating from working out? Is that affecting how you feel about yourself, your energy levels? It is affecting your self-confidence, right? So now we've taken this one little procrastination pattern, and we found out that they're 50 pounds overweight. They're putting that off. They're not going to the gym. They have low energy. They're not sleeping, right? Their relationship, like, has it showed up in your relationship? Yeah, I want to ask my girlfriend to marry me, but I haven't done it yet. You're not married. You're this, all this, and I'm talking this one procrastination pattern, and this is I'm unpacking that, and then I'm still going into the relationship, whatever you help them with. You got to help them with that, but it's that pattern recognition.
Okay.
And it really shows up everywhere, right? So here's the thing: when you're handling the pattern early on the call, when they get to the end of the call and they say I need to think about it, like, of course you do, right? Of course you do. Like what pattern is that? I've called it out like 7 times already.
Yeah.
And there's like this is the procrastination pattern, right? So I'll say something like, "Let me ask you a question, dude. Like, how are you ever going to get past it if you don't stop procrastinating?" He's like, "I won't." Okay. So what do you want to do? Like,
yeah.
it's like,
and it's funny you were talking about this one because I did a poll in the group. I told you about this, and the 2 biggest ones are budget. I don't have the money. And then the other one's lack of urgency. So let me think about it. So can we take an example, kind of show me an example of a limiting belief that might, I mean, most, like you said, you're going to expect most people to have the price objection at the end, but is there a limiting belief or pattern that shows up early in the call and then something you can dig into that can help you with the price objection?
Well, that's one thing. I don't think everyone's going to have the price objection at the end. I don't think that. There's been plenty of calls where there's no objections at all.
Right.
So
sure.
I think if you hit all the points, the problem, what happens is there's really a couple things. One is people don't really build out the cost of inaction, right? That's the biggest thing, right? So the cost of inaction has to be greater than the cost of your program. And how do you do that? You have to really future pace out. Things don't change, and also people don't take it away enough, right? It's like, I had the lady who enrolled at 40%. When I was talking to her on the call, she had done another $12,000 sales training program, and she'd done some other mindset program, and she's talking to me now. And she had an enrollment since January. And I said to her, I was like, well, why not just double down on this other sales thing and the mindset thing? Why not just do more of that? And guess what she said? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for like over a year. It doesn't work. Okay. So, but people don't do that. Like other people are like, well, I can talk to this other person. I can do this, right? I can do therapy. I can do that. So the trick is to be able to, the cost of inaction, for one, be able to, I give you an example. Most people on an enrolling call are trying to get people to enroll in their program. That's where they're coming from. I have a different frame. I assume that they're not a good fit. And I'm trying to get off the phone with them. This is the unconscious thing in the background, right?
Okay.
I'm not being a jerk, right? But this is what so when I come from that energy, they're proving to me why they're a good fit. So I'm not convincing. I'm not trying to talk it. It's just a different energy, right? So if they tell me they're doing something that like a lot of people downplay their problems, and I'm like, well, why not just do that? Do more of that. And if they say I can, I'm like, cool. I mean, I don't see how I can help you. How, if at all, do you think I could even help you?
Yeah.
Because if they think they can do it on their own, why are they going to pay you, right? So that's a good question you should ask them to call. Why not just do this on your own?
Right.
If they say I can, okay, cool, and I won't even make an offer, right? So if they say, well, I could, but like I don't want to waste all the time. I want to just kind of plug into a system that works. I don't want to waste time trying to figure it out. Or most people will say, well, I can't. I mean, I've been trying to do this for a couple of years. It's just not working.
Right.
But if they don't agree to that, how are they ever going to enroll?
Right. So, okay. So the big one is, or a huge one, in enrolling people because this is the kind of the title of the training. So to the big one, when we're trying to answer the objection, I don't have the money. A big one is cost of inaction. What else? Are there other pieces of your framework or how you teach people that kind of get us ready to answer that objection and crush that objection?
Yeah, I'm always into objection prevention than overcoming it. If I can, so that's
I would much rather that be the case because I'm one of those guys that kind of just folds when the when the objection pops
up. It's not uncommon, dude. So you're not alone with that. But one of the other things that's really important is when you're talking to people of what they've like, you're finding out like what are they here for? What do they want? Right?
Mhm.
Some kind of overarching goal. And then it's very simple. What have they done so far to try to get to that? Right. And then you kind of explore that. What do they like about it? What do they don't like about it? What worked? What didn't work? What do they think they need to get the ultimate result? You're getting all this information. And then what you can do is when you're presenting your offer, however you do it, some people do like pillars. I like to use pillars and then tie their problems and stuff to it.
Mhm.
And then what you can do is the reason that, like, I like this, like coming from a frame of like, it doesn't matter if you work with me or anyone else. These are the 5 things you need to do to get past it. And the people have to buy into your mechanism, to your strategy. They have to say, that's exactly what I need. And you also have to tie in why what they tried in the past hasn't worked.
Mhm.
Right. So I just got off a call with a client before I jumped on here with you. And she works with parents who have adopted kids that have like trauma and a lot of things. And a lot of her clients go to therapy. And therapy can help a little, but it doesn't help specifically for what she does, right? So she has to be able to like frame it in a way and tell her like the therapy is good because it relieves some pressure, but it doesn't do this, this, and this. And if you don't do this, this, and this, you're never going to get past it. And they're like, oh, now you basically make them feel like this is why there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just not doing these steps that I need to get the result, right? So you're
Mhm.
kind of like basically explaining why what they've tried hasn't worked, right? Because and then they buy into that, like that's the expert thing, right? They say, wow, that's exactly what we need, this and this. And they can feel good about the things they tried and didn't work. Now you're the expert. Now they believe it. There's trust. That's the big thing too. A lot of times we get the I don't have the it's too much money. And it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction. It's not like we get sold that it's actually a legitimate objection.
Mhm.
Most of the time it's just a smokescreen because trust is missing. They either don't trust you or your system. Maybe you haven't explained it good enough. Maybe they don't think it's that bad because you haven't been able to really expose what's going on. And they just think, oh, it's not, because a lot of clients in the calls will soften their problems. Why? It's not that bad.
Right.
They'll say something, they'll say something and another pattern you want to catch that's people will say something horrible and then laugh. And then they'll say something again. Oh yeah, like I think my husband's gonna leave me. It's
Yeah.
this nervous laugh, right?
Right.
Right. And that's a pattern, right? So that's a pattern my clients will call out. You notice every time you say something really bad, you laugh.
Mm.
Why do you think you do that? Makes them aware of things, right?
Mhm.
Puts them on their heels a little bit. So there's a lot of different things, but the key thing is they really have to buy into your framework and your mechanism of how you solve it. And at the same time, you have to completely destroy the competition, right? It's like, so I'll give you an example. What I do with sales training, there's a lot of good sales trainers out there. Okay. A lot of them don't do what I do because it's just a lot of work. Like a lot of them have the group thing, which is fantastic. And they have, most of the guys out there are pretty good. I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody. But what I do is when I work one-on-one with them, I listen to their calls. We do it like, it's a lot of work from
Mhm.
me. It's just a lot. And like
Right.
listening to all these calls and then giving specific feedback for them, writing out their outlines, because I don't really like a script, to be honest with you. My clients don't even use a script. They just have a conversation, which feels really good for them. And then they hit all the points they need to hit. And that way they can kind of navigate through it, right? So that makes the calls more enjoyable because you're not trying to cram all these things in from a script that don't even feel authentic to you. And I help them find, like, I'm very direct and to the point, borderline abrasive to a lot of people, right? My clients don't sound like me. Do you know what I mean? They can't pull that off because that's my personality. I'm the guy that's
Yeah.
going to be like, like just calling
Confrontation.
them out.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it in a softer, more subtle way, right? Like
Mhm.
the ladies aren't going to be super aggressive and assertive like I am, but they can still say the same thing, right? It's like, not the same thing, but the same kind of pattern to smash the pattern, right? So I think that's another key too, is to have the words and have a different outlook, right? So it's like here's one of my principles. It's like I'll say something to them like this. It was like, let me ask you a question. How are you ever going to get better at your calls if you don't know what you're doing wrong or missing on your calls? And they're like, we can't, right? So it doesn't matter if you work with me or anyone else. Make sure they're going to listen to your calls.
Mhm.
So they can give you feedback specific to you, not just canned lines.
Right.
Because here's the crazy thing. There's different personality types. I don't have time to get into this all right now. But based on someone's personality type, one line for one person would work wonderful, and they'd be like, "Wow, that's fantastic." You say that same line to a different personality type, and you're done. And you got to know which personality types you never want to push, right? Because they're gonna think it's a sleazy sales tactic. And then there's other people who, if you let them off the hook, they're never going to do anything because they're never going to invest in themselves, right?
Right.
So
So for somebody that is, I don't think I'll ever have that push button thing. But for somebody who's more laid back, I like a consultative approach to sales as opposed to like any high pressure at all, just because it doesn't, like, I don't like it when it's done to me. I don't, so if you could break it down into like some simple tips to get to, so there's the building up the cost of inactivity, and just some simple tips for, I guess preventing the I don't have the money objection. And then when it does come up, because it will, I think even if you do answer it, prevent it or do it up front, answer it up front, you're still going to get it a lot. So just a couple of like quick tips on, first of all, answering it before it happens. And then secondly, when it does come up, how do you kind of get over that hump?
One thing that you definitely have to do, in my opinion, is your energy cannot shift after you get the objection, right? You can't shift your energy. So for people who fold, their energy is kind of good, and then they're like, they're like done. Like take the wind out of their sails.
Right.
They want to get off the phone as soon as possible. That's what they want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your energy shifts. We don't want that.
Okay.
And then if you go into the, well, what do you mean it's too much money? Like that's an energy shift too. So the number one thing you got to do is you got to be able to sit in the pocket with them, right? In that space without shifting who you are. So the same energy you had on the call before, it's going to be that's key.
Okay.
And then I'm from the old school of always agree with an objection before you could try to redirect it, right?
Okay.
It's like, yeah, it's like it's a ton of money. People tell me that's a lot of money. I go, yeah, it's a heck of a lot of money. Why do you think I charge so much?
Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Because it's a lot of work for you.
Well, you know what they usually say?
What?
Take a guess.
Because you're good. Because you're expert.
Because it works.
Because it works. There you go.
Right. And I'm like, yeah. So what do you want to do? It's like you laugh. It's like it's so simple sometimes, but you have to be able to read it.
What happens when you say that? So what do you want to do? And do you really say? Is that really what you say?
Yeah, that's exactly what I say.
And then what happens typically then?
They say, well, they say that most of the time I have a pretty high enrollment rate. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
But if they say, well, whatever, they give me the other objection. Well, I can't do it.
Let's just role play for a second.
All right.
So you say, you just said, well, what do you want to do? And I'll say, well, I want to think about it. Give me some time to think about it.
Yeah, man, no problem. There's so many ways you can handle. Like, I hate lines. You're looking for like the cheesy Band-Aid stuff.
No, okay. I honestly want to know like how you because I don't like lines either. I want a approach that kind of works for me. To be honest, I'm asking you questions because I want to know.
So I haven't handled the money objection. Now you're giving me the whatever. So let's just say the first objection is, I just need to think about it.
Okay.
I'll be, hey, no problem, man. Take your time. Obviously, make sure it's right for you, right? Let me ask you a question, and then I just go into like, you could just a lot of things, a million things you could say. Like, if it was free, would you do it? Would you be all in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that helps them to make sure that they are aligned with the actual mechanism, right?
Well, yeah, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Okay.
I can't. I want to think about it. It's not an objection. It's the smoke screen. It's not. Right. It's the only one. It's not an objection. I can't handle that.
Got it.
I can't go into trying to say, well, you got me on the phone. So why I do it is I want to isolate it to money.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, if it was free, would you need to think about it? Or would you be all in? Oh, if it's free, I would do it.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Okay, great. So it's just the money then.
Yeah.
And now I'm handling the money objection.
Okay. And then you could, if you have payment plans or some other kind of.
Whatever you want to do. Like, but I never offer the payment plan either.
Okay.
So a lot of coaching programs will tell you, like, they make the offer so complex. Like they do the fast action discount, which is cool. Some of my clients do it. I don't have a problem with it. I don't like it
Hmm.
because it seems needy, and for certain personality types, they're gonna. It's awful. It seems like if it was good, they wouldn't have to do this cheesy tactic.
Right.
So I'm not gonna, get out like a third to a half of the people because of that, personally, right? So, um, but anyway, some of the people say it's 10. Everyday price is 10,000. But if you do it today, it's seven. I take $3,000 off. It's 7,000.
Yeah.
I can break that up in 2 payments of 3,500. But if you want to put it on one card, I can do it for $6,000. Like, you just overwhelmed everybody. Like now you just created the I want to think about it objection.
Okay. So no payment plan. So
No, so like I would just have one price.
so I don't have but I don't have it's really the price. So okay.
So and then like let's just say I did the thing to you and I was like
It is expensive.
yeah, and then you say, "Why do you think I charge it?" Or something like that. I don't do canned lines. I do whatever happens in the call, but I'm just playing for
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
giving you the
Sorry,
stuff.
I'm putting you on the spot, but
Well, I don't care. Yeah, but
yeah,
it's all context related based on what happens in the call,
sure,
right?
sure.
I don't do
Got it.
canned lines, but anyway. So what are you gonna like? So what do you want to do? Well, I'm not gonna do it. Okay, gotcha. Like, what's your plan then?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm going to try to get a couple of more clients, and then I want to reach back out to you when I do that.
But see, like on the call, I've already disabled that pattern of that
Right.
procrastination like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, you're looking for lines. Like, okay, so you think that like not doing anything right now is the best thing for you to get to that outcome to whatever?
Yeah. Well, I think I know where we're going. So I don't want to put you on the spot anymore because I kind of get where.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I don't do the lines like that, but like
yeah.
whatever comes up, I use all the stuff in the from the call, right? So
Right.
it just depends. Like, I mean, back in the day when I sold cars, I don't do this on coaching calls, but it just made me think of a funny line. Like, when I was a kid, I used to sell cars, and everyone would always say that it's too much, the payment's too high. And you know what my number one line was to close people? I
What?
just said to them, like, "Well, that wouldn't keep you from buying it, would it?" And they go, "What?" And like half of the people would say, "No, I guess not," and they just buy. Right? I wouldn't do that on a coaching call,
Right. Right. Right.
but I don't believe it's the money.
Yeah.
So I explore things, and I just sit in the pocket with them. I'm just talking, have a conversation. It's more about the end. It's more of who you are when you say the words than the words themselves. Right?
Got it.
It's like a pickup line, right? Sales and pickup, they're very similar, right? I don't care what people say. You
Mhm.
could have the best pickup line in the world, and you have a person, a guy trying to pick up a girl, and he's very timid, he's meek, he's not sure of himself. He's like, he says the line, "Is it going to work?"
No.
No, you have some guy that's full of confidence that just can just like own his space, and he
Hmm.
just looks at the girl and says, "Hi," and she's done.
Right.
It's not the lines, guys, right? Like,
Right.
I wish you could, like, that's the problem, is you're trying to fix these cheesy lines. I felt found. Like, does that work? It can, but it's so horrible. When I hear it, my skin crawls.
Yeah.
I
Same.
used to feel the same way, but what we found out is that people have this and this, and then blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, you have like no respect for people. Just be real with people.
Right.
Like, just like, what do you think? Here's a secret, guys. This is what no one. What are you really thinking and feeling inside? And say it. Right. I'll give you a line that my client used to enroll somebody the other day.
Okay.
It was so simple, but because it wasn't the line, it was the energy she said when she said the line. The lady said to her, "Is like, I don't even know how I can justify doing this." Right, and after she just has all this horrible stuff about her family, all this crazy stuff, right? And you're like, so my client's like, "I don't know how you can, she said, I don't know how I can justify it. I don't know how you can not justify it."
Right.
And that's all she said, and just was quiet. And it's just like it's this pattern interrupts thing. So it's not the line. It's not the line. It's the space that she held for the person. And then the lady's like, "You're right. I mean, I keep putting things off. If I don't do it now, then when am I ever going to do it?" But that's the client saying it. That's not. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right. It's just
that's the
getting them to,
key.
yeah, it's interrupting the pattern and getting them to think about it themselves, like asking the right questions, I guess.
That's it. If you don't like the answers you're getting, ask better questions.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Yeah. I mean, and that's the part where I kind of draw a blank because I don't know how to access the questions that I need to be asking at that point, you know?
I think with a lot of people, the one of the toughest things, right? And this is why I love doing these calls, because when you start breaking down calls, we all have limiting beliefs. Everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what I'm looking for on the goal on the call. The goal is listen for limiting beliefs and incongruencies. People say you shouldn't coach on the call. And I agree. You shouldn't coach. Like if you're helping people with marketing, you never coach on marketing. If you're helping with sales, you don't help with sales. But I believe you
Coach
need to
on
coach in the
limiting beliefs.
calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to coach them through those mindset things, those
Mm-hmm.
mindset blocks, right? Reframe things, constantly reframing things, constantly the mindset things. So the problem is a lot of people have a lot of negative things with sales, and they have money blocks. They have all kinds of these things. And another thing people don't realize is like this is the biggest thing. This is why most people they try to enroll somebody, but we all sell like we buy, right? If you constantly have to think about it, if you have to talk to your wife or your spouse before you make a decision. I had a client one time say to me, how can I get this person how can I get past the spouse objection? I said, well, like, do you ever buy without talking to your spouse? She goes, never. I go, then how are you going to get someone else past it?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be. It's like the old Gandhi story, right? You heard this one, right? It's like lady brings a kid to see Gandhi and says, "Can you tell my son to stop eating sugar?" And he says, "Well, have him come back in 2 weeks." So they come back in 2 weeks, and the lady says, "Can you tell my son to stop eating sugar?" And Gandhi says, "Stop eating sugar." And the mom is like, well, "Why did you tell him 2 weeks ago?" And he said, 2 weeks ago, I was eating sugar.
Oh.
Right. So we have to like, and I always make the joke. I always say this to a lot of people, like, you want your clients to be decisive, but are you decisive? Right. I mean, all
Mm-hmm.
these high ticket programs like you, Ron, you ever see people posting, someone said this, what should I do? Like it's their own business. They can't even make a decision. And they
Right.
want other people to make decisions. So they're wondering why they're getting people. Or I always tell an example, like if you want to, you got to get good at being decisive. So go out to a restaurant, like a Chinese food restaurant, because they have a million items on a menu, and then just see, like order the first thing that looks good. Get in the habit of doing that. Oh, that looks good. I'll take that. Because a lot of people will go out with a bunch of friends. There's people that have to ask everyone else what they're getting before they can decide.
Mm-hmm.
What are you getting? What are you getting? What are you getting? And it's just like, oh man, just make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is you are going to basically you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. So if you think if you don't believe in your product, you think they're expensive, you have some worthiness issues around things, because that's another thing when people say it's a lot of money. Here's another. I'm not big on lines, but like another one just popped in my head is a lot of times they don't trust themselves. That's a big thing, and a lot of times it's a worthiness issue, right? Do you know how many times I close a deal? Why do you think that you're not worth investing X amount of dollars in?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, they never thought of it like that.
Right.
But you ever say to yourself something that you didn't buy something because it was too much money? Oh, it's too much. I can't buy that.
Yeah, because the value, and it's typically because either the person or the value wasn't there, and
Yeah, I talked to.
that brings up a good point that I was just thinking about is like you got to have a good offer too, and an offer takes you a big part of the way there. I mean, I would say that's a huge part of the sales process. If you've got and the way you present the offer, like you mentioned, like if you can answer objections. And we've talked about this, and I won't give away your secret sauce because I know you got something coming up, but you got a brilliant way of positioning your offer at the end of the call, which I definitely think people should hear about, and we'll talk about how they can learn more about that.
Well, if you can use your offer to handle objections, to mitigate risk, to make people need to feel safe and heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know that you're going to be there for them, and you're just
Right.
not a dollar sign to them,
Yeah,
right? Because let's
that's great.
face it,
Yeah.
people like like even like a couple of days ago, I just sent an audio message to somebody, helping them out with something, and they're thinking like, oh, he just wants to sell me something, and I'm like, I don't even think like that, dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a philosophy in life. Like every person I meet, I want them to feel a little bit better about themselves, and I want to leave people better than I find them, whether they pay me or don't pay me. I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't focus on money. My clients are so blown away. Like I have a way, I have a thing that I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's like a pay as you get paid, right?
Yeah, I
So
love that
I
too.
take a lot of the risk,
Yeah.
right? And people are like, hey, send me the link. I don't need to pay you. And I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll send it to you tomorrow. Like, I don't worry about the money. And the less I worry about money, the more I make.
Yeah,
It's a
no,
weird thing.
it's exactly right. And you're very giving, dude. I like for sure. So I appreciate that about you. Well, any last words on how to answer the price objection before, like, over in the
Yeah.
call?
One thing, don't get sold. Like, people get sold at the end of the call about the client stories, about the BS, about all these things. Like, don't let it phase you, right? I think it's hard to, like, because everyone's looking for like this, like, I want to just say this one line to make everything happen, like work. It's more complicated. You can't isolate to one little thing. You know what I mean? So my whole philosophy is to eliminate the objections up front,
Right.
because that makes life easier. So if an objection comes up at the end, it's so much easier because you've already dealt with the pattern, right? And then basically you can just ask a simple question and they blow the objections up on themselves. They realize they're just a little scared. They just want to feel safe and supported. Like they, and if you can do that, they're going to enroll. They're just scared. They just need someone. They need someone to believe in them because they don't believe in themselves, right? Without trying to convince them, right? It's different, right? So I'm doing a 5-day workshop starting on Monday, and it's going to go over a lot of things we talked about, but it's going to give you a process and a system to put this together. So if you have a script, you can use it with your script. My clients, I wean them off of their script so they can have just conversations, but you'll have all the tools, all the sections you need to hit. You're going to learn about like personality types. You're going to learn about like how to create your pillars, how to create questions, your pillar questions. So whatever you help people with solving the problem, how do you ask questions that expose the gaps or the problems that they have that your solution solves with your pillars?
Yeah, and I can go ahead and tell y'all, like, the way he does this is I mean, I've heard something similar, but not quite like he does it, and it's freaking brilliant. It really is. So it's worth the workshop itself, and the workshop's free anyway,
It's
right?
free. It's free.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, Ron, you can put like a little have
Yeah,
people comment
if y'all are
workshop.
interested, by the way, if anybody's interested in the workshop, if you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching it live, just comment workshop below and I'll make sure you get the link to the workshop. And it starts when?
Monday the 12th.
Monday the 12th. Okay. And what time?
8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay. So just comment workshop below, whether you're watching this live or we got a couple of workshops in there. Also,
Yeah, but let me say real quick though, because you're gonna get there's a lot of things it's gonna cover. Like you're gonna deal with how to deal with personality types, how to sell to the person, what to say, what not to say. We're gonna build a whole call framework for you. So if you don't have one or you don't like the one you have, you can incorporate these things in there. We're going to talk about the pillars. We're going to talk about the general call principles. This is the most important thing, guys. These are the things you need the boxes you need to tick, right, to make sure in the call. So it doesn't matter how you do it. We're going to talk about like where and when to challenge people, when to challenge the limiting beliefs. We're going to talk about how to build out an application that actually handles objections, right? How to eliminate the spouse objection with that. There's all different things. How to present the price. An enrolling mindset. We're going to talk about building out all your questions for your call so you have a structure and a framework to do that. And then we're going to talk about handling objections, how to do that irresistible offer that eliminates objections that Ron was talking about. And it's just going to cover everything. So, and then you can ask questions. So if you have anything, it's an interactive thing. It's like an hour long each day. It's not long.
Yeah, he walked me through some of the stuff, and like I love the offer thing. That's my favorite part. But and also just the framework of the call. And I love the way you do it without a script, because a script just makes me overwhelmed. And I've started doing this where I just have like a checkbox of the things that I need to cover, and I can bounce around from thing to thing. But as long as I cover everything in that call,
You're good.
It's good. So, and you show people how to do that. So let's take some questions. I'm going to scroll through the comments here and see what kind of questions we got. And if anybody has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll try to get to them real quick. Let's see. So yeah, that's the trick. I'm not sure. It's catch-22. You have to know how to handle objection to uncover the mindset. It's not necessarily a question. The trap is where you say the words without actually handling the mindsets, therefore the objection, but you still need the word tracks to learn. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm hoping like what you'll see in the workshop is like the whole part of the call is we're handling objections, like the things sayings that they have that turn into objections at the end. And I think that's one of the pieces is to hear those patterns to start handling them early so they don't turn into the objection. Because once it turns into the objection, it makes it so much harder. Right? It's so much harder to handle it when you know.
Let me ask you a question on that. So, when you say that you're handling the objection, when you dig in to and asking those questions around the pattern, how is that answer? How are you actually uncovering? Are you just keeping that information so you can show them that they're not congruent later on, or how are you using that information?
I'm unpacking it at the moment when it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually have they see something they couldn't see before, so they have like this like awareness piece, like, oh wow,
Okay.
I am doing that.
So you're just kind of making them aware, but are you doing anything necessarily with that information? Because you say it's more than just the awareness.
Well, yeah, then I'm taking that pattern or whatever the thing is, and I'm gonna freaking get use of it everywhere.
Okay.
So then I mean, no, I'm like for their life, right? So
Right.
whatever that pattern is that they're doing, that limiting belief that's holding them back, I'm going to take that everywhere in their whole life, in their business, in their life, in their personal, and then they're going to realize that this little thing is way worse than they thought it was,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're going to see how it's really affecting them, and they're like, holy cow! But they have that shift. Oh my goodness, there's a breakthrough.
And I guess you're also building that cost of inactivity by digging into that.
Yeah, because they're seeing you cascade the pain to every area of their life.
Got it. Okay.
And they have this realization that, oh my goodness, like without you saying it, they're like, this is way worse than this, because we all naturally downplay our problems. We do. It's not that bad, you know. Like you even talk to like women who've been abused by men, and they say, well, he doesn't hit me that often anymore. And it's like, are you kidding me? But that's just how we are, because it's the law of familiar, and that's just what it's been familiar for people. So when they have this awareness piece, like, holy cow, I do that, and then they become, it's like this huge breakthrough, and then they start catching the pattern. That's a beautiful thing. When they start catching the pattern, when they say something, I'm just like, this is going to be easy.
Yeah,
because they're gonna handle the objection at the end.
So if I had to summarize everything that we've kind of talked about, it's like you have different things that you need to check throughout the call.
Yep.
You're looking for limiting belief type patterns that you're going to dig into,
and incongruencies.
And when you're doing that, when you're digging into those and asking questions around those false beliefs and incongruencies, you're really trying to create awareness in their mind, but you're also collecting information to present in your offer, to call them out when they have those different objections at the end. And then that's kind of is that a good summary of like what we
because like you'll hear little clues on the call. To give you an example, there'll be some worthiness issues about things on the call. Happens a lot, believe it or not. Most people miss it. One of the things that help people do is get their ears tuned up to hear these patterns, because most people miss it. So you can hear this limiting belief around money. They might say something about something or someone or something, and that's going to turn into something at the end if you don't handle it. Like that's what people get freaked out when, like 10 minutes into the call, I'm like, boom, that's why you got the objection at the end. You didn't handle this pattern right here. And then they have that mind blown, because then we listen to the call and they're like, oh my goodness, that is where. And then look they mentioned it's something like similar again, that you didn't handle it. 3 times they had this pattern that turned into the objection, that if you would have smashed it all 3 times and made them aware of it, then when they give you the objection, you just hold the mirror up.
Yeah.
And they basically go, oh my gosh, I'm doing it again, aren't I? And that might be something I'm saying, like, I'm like, dude, do you know what you're doing right now? And they're like, then they have this, and then sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. I'm like, you're doing it again, dude.
Yeah. And then that's the incongruency and got it.
And then that's what we're talking about. Like, that's why I say, don't overcome the objection, overcome the limiting belief or the pattern. Yeah. That's the easy part.
I love this, man. This is so much. It just feels easier than the script and everything like that. So I love it.
Scripts can work, but it's really hard.
It can't for me.
Yeah, it can, but it's really hard.
Yeah. So let me ask. Okay. So somebody asked, but how can this work in B2B? So I'm assuming sometimes you're talking to people that aren't necessarily, I don't know.
It's easy, dude.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Like, so if there's a B2B, they have a problem in their business, right? And how it people's businesses affect area. If you're struggling in your business, how's your relationship with your wife? If you can't pay the bills,
right?
How's your relationship with your employees if they don't know they're gonna have a job in 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How is, you know what I mean? It's like, how's your relationship with your kid when you're working 80 hours a week trying to get your business off the ground?
Right. And that leads into the next question, which is pivoting to ask, how does this show up in other parts of your life when you're selling business services? Isn't appropriate, is it? How can it be?
Well, that's up to you. To me, nothing's off limits, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's struggling in their business, it depends what you're selling. I mean, this context is everything. Right? If you're selling widgets,
Well,
like,
you're also, I mean, if you're helping with their business, you're trying to help them in their business, which is going to help other parts of their life. So you're trying to get them to, and if you really think that you can help them, you're trying to get them to see that, the things that holding them back are these limiting beliefs that you've been talking about that they're, not necessarily aware of.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: everywhere you go, there you are, right? So if these patterns are showing up in their business, they're showing up in their personal life, they're showing up everywhere. That's the whole point, right?
Right.
So I guess it's context is everything, but if someone's working 90 hours a week, you don't think that's affecting their relationships at home?
Yeah.
But maybe you're afraid to say it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole other thing. That's your issues, right? You don't want to be uncomfortable,
right?
So then you that's another thing I say to people too. It's like they'll say, I, I wanted to be nice. I didn't want to be mean. And I'm like, that's not nice, making them suffer the whole rest of their life or whatever. So it's about loving people. Here's the thing. This is my frame. Loving people enough to tell them the truth, especially when it's not pretty.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you come from, right? I think that nothing is off limits. I'll give you an example. Let's say a part of the call. I go into this pattern thing. I'm not going to go into it right now. I'm going to end it, but it's a really good thing. And I'll talk about something like I call it splitting the identity, right? There's a person on the call who's been struggling for a long time with something, but at one time in their life they were successful. They had some kind of success. So I ask a question: whatever behavior I see lacking, maybe it's commitment, maybe it's something. Right? Tell me about a time where you were really struggling. You thought you were going to fail, but you were super committed, because if I want commitment, say, and you figured it out and you got past it. Right? Mm-hmm. I use this story a lot, but it's like, oh yeah, one guy told me one time I was in college and I was failing out, but I buckled down. I did what it took, and I not only passed, but I got summa cum laude, or whatever they call it, right? That must have been incredible, right? And they say, how'd you feel? I felt amazing. So now I'm building this person up that can say yes at the end of the call, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll say, this is a great question. Say, like, where'd you learn that from? And they say, oh, my mom, she was amazing. Oh, that sounds awesome. Is she still around? They say, no, she passed. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. If she's still alive, I'm going to use the mom for leverage for money after. Mm-hmm. If she's not alive, I'm going to use that at the end of the call. They're going to be like, yeah, it's just a lot of money. I just can't do it. I'm like, I got you. That's okay. Right? But let me ask you a question. If your mom was here, what would she tell you to do? Would she tell you to do it and go all in on yourself, or would she tell you to step back into your fear?
Oh, I don't know if I could do that.
No, that's love, dude.
Yeah.
Because this person wants to do, he's just scared, or she's just scared.
Yeah.
So there's nothing off limits, guys. And the context is everything. So like that might sound, that's why I don't like doing these type of things around. I do it for you because I'll do anything for you. I love you, bro. But like, I hate this because it's just like, it's like throwing out candies. It's like
yeah. I mean, I think it's been awesome. We got great people like telling us how valuable this is, how cool. Great stuff. So yeah, no, this is what everybody needs to hear, man. Honestly,
I learned this from someone. Well, I've always believed this, but one person said this, and it was like such a beautiful thing. I was like, man, this is exactly the most important thing. If you want to, enroll more people, to help more people, right? Is the number one rule is you got to give a shit about people,
right?
Like, don't make it about you and money. Like, that's like the worst thing. Like, I don't even care about the money. I know it sounds ridiculous. I don't. I never focus on the money. I don't go for the money. You know what I go for, Ron? Commitment. I go for the freaking commitment. I don't care about their money. They could have no money. The guy could be homeless with no job, no money, no nothing. And I'm like, I'm owning everything. I'm like, man, why couldn't I get him to reach out to his rich uncle to get the money? Why couldn't I figure a way to get him to get a job?
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. I don't blame anyone for anything. I own everything. So that's the key, dude. It's like caring about people enough to help them get past it. And I'm willing to blow up the call to get them to shift, even if it means that they're going to leave me and go to you, Ron, and buy from you.
Well, we do. We work congruently together, so that we complement each other. So
yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, you got to be. I'm
yeah.
willing to blow up the call anyway.
Well, there's one other question. Once you overcome their objection, how do you handle closing the sale? I would say join the workshop and come see.
Yeah,
because it's beautiful.
Well, in the workshop. I talk about another thing that's really important. I don't have time to go into it now, but how to prevent buyer's remorse.
Mm-hmm.
Right when people are on the fence and they sign up, because sometimes people will call you back the next day and get cold feet. I show you a way to wipe that out completely. If you sign up for the workshop, you'll get that. That in of itself is so great, because I don't know if you've ever had that, someone sign up and then they want their money back the next day or 2 days later. It's a horrible thing. Mm-hmm. So this one thing is a secret to preventing that. That'll never happen.
Okay. So, well, again, everybody, if you're interested in that workshop, drop in workshop. I am going to try to make the first 3, and then I got to, where I'm going. So head to Antarctica on Wednesday. So I wish I could be there. Maybe I can join on the plane ride, but I will definitely be there in spirit. And everybody on this call should be on that workshop. I'm telling you, this guy's awesome. So
I appreciate you, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah. Any final words for the audience?
You know what? Just be you guys. The problem is everyone's trying to get something from someone and trying to put this sales personality on and all this stuff. At the end of the day, it's like, get your sales skills up, record all your calls, listen to your calls, big thing. But say what you're thinking. Like a lot of people are worrying about blowing the sale. They're worrying about these things. And it's like, get out of your own way. Because like, if you can't get out of your own way, how are you going to help other people get out of their own way? It's like I always say, if you're in scarcity in the call, it's impossible to get someone else at the end of the call who's scared. If you're in fear and scarcity and they're in fear and scarcity, how you can't get them out of it. So your certainty, you have to have 200% certainty, 100% for you and 100% for the client to borrow until they can get their own. Mm-hmm. And they have to feel heard. They have to feel understood. And you have to have that expert frame, right? And it's like, if you do all those things and you really care about people, then you say what's required and you don't let them off the hook, even if it's uncomfortable for you. You're just going to sit in the pocket with them. You don't have to be pushy. You can just ask a question and just just be able to sit in the pocket with them.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Well, thanks for doing this, man. I loved it. I've taken notes. I'm going to watch this again. So I really appreciate it, man. I think it's awesome what you do, and you have the structure of how you do the sales call. I think it's different from anything out there. So I really appreciate it, man. And I know the audience does. We've got a lot of people that are saying workshop. And by the way, somebody asked what the workshop is. Mike's doing a workshop next week where he's basically going to take you through the entire sales process and show you how really you can increase your close rate and your enrollment rate. So definitely
and have more fun on the calls, right? This is the thing. People feel so you're not so drained in the calls because you're going to become more of who you are.
Yeah.
And find stuff that works for you. We're going to work on the questions and the lines. It's an interactive workshop. We're going to work on things together. So yeah, it's going to be awesome.
It really is, y'all. He's good at what he does. So y'all, if you're interested in that, again, type workshop in and I'll reach out to you and send you the link. But everybody, thank y'all for joining us. If you want Mike back, let us know and we'll try to convince him to come back in the new year. All right, everybody. Well, thank y'all and we'll see you next time.